I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christine Barry watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and we have huge news about TikTok. The Supreme Court, which I'm not surprised, upheld the ban. It's not really a ban. They're trying to force a sale, and people are flipping out. People are angry about it, which I understand because it's going to impact so many people's livelihoods. Like I'm friends with people who have like 1 million followers, and they can pay their rent off of like a video. So that is awful for so many different people, and it's interesting to me that so many people are angry with the government, but they're not angry at TikTok for not taking the divest option. And they don't want to take the divest option because China doesn't want them to divest and give away the algorithm and stuff. So, yeah, we'll be talking about that. Also, there's big news with the inauguration. They've decided to have it indoors. And I heard about that when like early today. And I all I know right now is about the weather. That's all I know. So they're going to move it indoors to like a stadium, and I think the stadium only seats like 20,000. So if you were going to make the long trip to go to the inauguration and you didn't have like any other plans, you're free to do whatever you want, but it might not be worth going, because obviously more people could come if it was outside, but and there's all the like the assigned seating, and then there's all the public viewing that who could come like at the National Mall and stuff. But there's obviously going to be a lot of people who can't make it in the arena, so that just sucks. So we'll talk about that. Also, Biden just kind of declared a new amendment today. You can't just do that. So he's just going down just fully demented and power hungry, and just silliness exploding from the office. Doesn't care about legacy and dignity at this point, just doing stuff and trying to make things difficult for Trump, including with the TikTok thing, because they announced that they wouldn't enforce it. It's your law that you signed. It's your law that you signed, and now you're like punting as if it's Trump's problem. He can't do anything about the law. Like the ban goes into effect like by the time he leave office. So it's just silly. It's just silly. So there's lots of things to talk about today. I apologize for starting a little late. I don't plan to go over today because I actually have to minister tonight in church. So I've got to like finish, getting my sermon and stuff together, make sure everything's all tight. So before we jump to everything, I want to encourage you guys, go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream and run my website and all that stuff, so you guys can support. I do very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. If you want to, support on Facebook, you guys can send stars. If you want to support on YouTube, you guys can do super chats. If you're watching later, you can do stickers. But the best way to support is to go directly to the website if you can. And you guys can also check out different merch and my books and stuff. I'm so excited about my children's book, Bigger. My sister's working on it all the time. It was so funny because some of you guys have seen the pictures. Do I have? Yeah, this was like the concept art page that we made, just printed up real quick for a Comic Con. So that's my little baby dinosaur. He doesn't have a name right now. It's just like we just call him Baby, but he obviously does grow. It's, when he's a little, and that's a tree that he likes to visit. Well, it's the kind of the hot spot. Everybody likes to see this tree. It's one of my favorite images that she did, and then he wants to get bigger than the tree, then bigger than his dad, and it just keeps his, then he starts getting kind of delusions of grandeur for how big he wants to get. So, it's a really cute book with a really good message in it, and there's a scene where his mom is supposed to hug him and she was just dreading drawing hugging because they have little arms, and she's like, oh, she's like, I'm just dreading it. So I haven't seen that sketch yet, but she's getting toward the end. So um I'll be very excited when that comes out. Thank you. I'm glad you guys like the images. My sister Tina, who's working on them, she also did the images for, of course, God is blatantly against abortion. So she's the one who drew this image of the hand of God reaching out to the hand of the baby. So that's the artist, same artist who's working on the book. And by the way, you guys may recall this. Do you guys recall when I had an image of Trump blown up on this huge canvas, and I was going around? I carried it to like this Detroit rally. They wouldn't let me in with it because it was too big. And then I took it down to DC because I was trying to get him signed. And so many people tried to help me get it signed, but it just wouldn't work. So we ended up contacting Trump's people. We sent it down to Mar-a-Lago, and it turns out Trump wanted it, so he took it. So that's kind of the end of that story. So it's actually in his office. If anyone wondered what happened to it, he wanted it for himself. So uh so yeah, just a little FYI. I'll go into more detail with that story sometime later. But that's what happened. He wanted it. He thought it was cool, and it's in his office. So yeah. So that's cool though. My sister has a picture that she did that is hanging up in the office of the president. April said, "Dang, but what an honor." She definitely made money from it. We weren't selling it. We were It's kind of a long story, but we were trying to get it sold so we could not signed because we were going to auction it off for an event. And so it was during the time of around like the RNC convention and a bunch of other stuff, and they didn't have time, and that was like around the time of the assassination, and just there's a lot of things going on, and they didn't have time to vet the charity. So we're still trying to figure some stuff out as far as like what we can do on that end. So a lot of people did go and check out her image, so she did get a lot of like financial support from just the endeavors of trying to get it signed. So if you're worried about whether she lost money or anything like that, no. But I would love if one of his donation checks was to the group that we were working with, but yeah, he snatched that bad boy. Let me pull it up. I've showed it before. Textportraits.com. And painting text portraits. Yeah, I know some of you follow her work and sometimes watch her stream. She's very talented for sure. Talent on loan from God, as Rush Limbaugh used to say. So, and it wasn't the original. I was like, we're like, don't send the original. So glad you didn't. So yeah, that's the image. So yeah, so we got it blown up on a big canvas, but it wasn't the original that we sent with it. So she still has the original in hand, but yeah, that's it. And it just says, I think it just says Donald Trump, or it might just say Trump. But she makes these by hand. So that's the image. So she does sell prints on her website. It's tinastextportraits.com. But yeah. She's got a lot of different ones. Like she's got I'm sorry, now I'm in big sister brag mode. I'm sorry. We will get to the news, I promise you. Um so that's Jesus, specifically like the Jim Caviezel image from Passion of Christ. But this is made entirely out of the scripture John 3:16. So one's cool. She's got Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King is I Have a Dream. We got Ronald Reagan. The Ronald Reagan one is really good. That took her like 40 hours to do. The more detailed it is, the longer it takes. And the detail ranges on how many different values. She does make these she does commission with these too. Marilyn Monroe, she does have Obama. This John Wick one's really cool too. The first one she did was a Jensen Ackles one. Which this is the first one she did, and she did it in school. And then we were going to like a Superman festival, and we're like, you should keep making those. And then she did some Superman, and then we kept going to conventions and stuff. So she kept doing pop culture ones, and then she started doing some political ones, and people would commission her to do different ones for their family members, pets, all kinds of stuff. But she doesn't pop them out a lot because they take a lot of time. But yeah, that's something that she would do. Now people love her Pokemon ones. The Pokemon ones are their names in Japanese. So she's got a lot. You guys can check out her website. She did Attack on Titan ones, and now I've watched the show, and now I can appreciate it now. But she mainly, when she streams though, she might do a text portrait and work on one live, but she normally does like the small portraits. So me painting. So she mainly has these little teeny paintings that she does, and she'll sell them at conventions and craft shows and on her website, and she'll do commissions of those too. So I encourage you guys to check out her stuff. Again, if you're wondering, like, if you came in late and you're like, why is she showing all these little stuff? Because this is my sister and I'm proud of her, one. And she's my artist who did my book cover for God is Against Abortion. And she did an amazing job with that one. And she's also working on my book Bigger, which again, my little baby dinosaur. And I wanted to keep you guys updated. And I got a little distracted talking about it because I'm excited. So I will be very excited when that comes out this year. But other than that, I have novels and other books you guys can nonfiction books like of course God is Blatantly Against Abortion you guys can check out. So excited about that. Other merch is like t-shirts and mugs and so on that it's available at blacktnews.com. So let's talk about the inauguration situation first. So it's supposed to be like 10 degrees and it's very, very, very cold. And from what I know right now, that's the reason why they want it to be indoors, which is so annoying. There's someone on my page who's a hater that was like, I hope it's like 10 degrees. And I'm like, well, people will still come and he'll still be your president. And, and so many people were still planning on going. There are some people I know who's like, I can't do it if it's that cold. And I'm like, I understand, but there would have been plenty of people who would have been out there, people who are, getting electric warm coats. And I told you guys to bundle up yesterday. And I got a message this morning, a text from a friend that had an article, and I got a call, from someone working on stuff. And then they said, yep, they're putting it all indoors. So I don't think that'll probably change much for the actual program. um of course the visuals won't be quite what they were in 2016. I just saw 2017 rather. I just saw a video of, a journalist who was like giving a sneak peek of the setup of when Trump walks out and the view and how stunning and stuff it will be. And now they're changing it, switching it around. So, yeah, that kind of sucks. But um, I want to just say, if you still want to come out here, go out there to DC, make that long trip, and try to get in where they're going to be showing the inauguration like on screens in a stadium. You could do that. It's only going to have so much, standing room, and I don't know how much overflow there will be at different places. And Trump is supposed to come and see the people afterwards, so people will still get a chance to see the president, and it'll probably be kind of rally style. So, uh, so it's it's too bad, but it's still kind of his thing, the indoor rallies and other. But if that's all you were going to do that day, you might want to consider if you want to spend all that money to go down there. I know some people are like, of course I'm going to spend all that money and go down there. That's totally completely up to you guys. There's still, the different balls that night. There's a commander in chief ball, which that's for military. So if you got to know to kind of get in there, um, there's the Starlight inaugurate the Starlight ball that is like for top donors and stuff. And the other ball is the Liberty ball, and the Liberty ball is where there'll be like a lot of like volunteers and folks like that. So people have asked like, well, how do you get in there? You apply the same way that you apply to be able to get tickets for the regular inauguration. And if you don't have a ticket to the ball now, it is really, really packed. So there's no more tickets left to be had. So if you don't got one now, you're not going to get one unless you really, 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 really know somebody. So um that's what's going on. If I hear anything else, know anything else, I'll let you guys know, at least from things that could be or what's publicly disclosed or whatever. But yeah, it's I wish that the same experience that I had could be kind of replicated for people who haven't experienced it yet and before. And I was looking forward to so many people being able to, kind of have that moment. But it's not that it still won't be a moment, but it's just going to be different. Um, I think there's a troll here. Um, anyway, someone say here in Arkansas, the high for Monday is 28. No thanks. I'll be in bed under my electric blanket, drinking hot toddies and watching it on my TV. Yeah, it's even 28 wouldn't be bad, I guess. I'm just thinking about 10 is cold though, like if it's around that. So, if it was like 40, that'd be great. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to talk it out with my sisters about, because I wasn't planning on staying like in DC. And so we'll have to drive there and then come back and then change and then drive back there for like the ball. So I don't know if I'm gonna go to like the stadium, but I definitely don't have a ticket to the Capitol like indoor for the inauguration. So I will be watching it probably the same way all of you will be watching it. So I don't know. Maybe I you guys will see more kind of snippets of video from me from that day. Uh, you know, I don't know. We'll get there. We'll see it together. I'm supposed to be in the South. I didn't sign up for less than 40 degrees. It's just how it is sometimes. It's cold. The US gets cold. It just does. It just does. So anyway, let's chit chat about this TikTok ban. Um there's a lot of my friends on my feed and stuff understandably flipping out, upset, distraught, angry, some of them going to Red Note, which I do not recommend, which is funny. Red Note is another Chinese app, and people started fleeing to it just as like I guess a middle finger to the government, like this is going to be our new app, and you don't want us to, go to and on a Chinese spy app. Well, I'm going to find me a new Chinese spy is like people's attitude. And people in the know with security are just like, do not do that. This is a very bad idea as far as how they're going to get your data, and it's just not a smart move. And now China is panicking and trying to change their algorithm and firewalls and stuff because they don't want American content to intermingle with their stuff. Like you could see their propaganda, and some people are seeing stuff from Red Note and they're being indoctrinized and they're seeing all this propaganda like, oh my gosh, I didn't know how nice it was in China. And it's like, and someone was like, there's no homelessness in China, and just crazy stuff. And that just doesn't make any sense. Like, guys, China is not a good place. Try to be like a Christian and go over there and preach like normal gospel and see if you don't end up in jail. Or like people, I know people who have to go there undercover. Like it's not a great place. So but they don't want like different American ideas, whether they be, I don't know, maybe freedom based or just wacky gender identity stuff to influence their people. So they're finding a way to put up a veil between, that, just like with TikTok, our version of TikTok is not in China. It's banned. They have something else, a version of TikTok that is like educational stuff, like that they feed to their children's minds. They don't have all this crap that we have on our version of TikTok. So, I would not recommend fleeing to Red Note. I saw Red Note's putting ads on TikTok to try and entice people over there though. And I just don't recommend it. I just don't. And there's a lot of people who don't seem to believe in the national security threats. But I'm gonna go through this article from National Review talking about it. I'm not surprised that the court upheld it. There were people doing different analysis on TikTok that were trying to make it seem like there was a chance, and like TikTok made good arguments. But I'm no lawyer, but the concerns that the justices were raising didn't seem like TikTok would have good answers for all that stuff. So rightly upheld the TikTok law. The justices sidestepped a tough First Amendment question. To grasp the significance of TikTok v. Garland, in which the Supreme Court today unanimously, guys, that was one of the first things I did when this ruling came. I was trying to find like the reporting of how many justices voted one for it, and it was all of them. All of them voted the same way. To grasp the significance of TikTok v. Garland, in which the Supreme Court today unanimously upheld the statute requiring the China-controlled owners of the social media platform to divest, it is best to start at the end. I mean, the very end, the last two sentences of the final opinion out of three, in case Justice Neil Gorsuch's concurrence. Speaking with and in favor of a foreign adversary is one thing. Allowing a foreign adversary to spy on Americans is another. The law at issue addresses first and foremost a massive espionage operation against Americans by the Chinese Communist regime. For purposes of the court's proper role in American governance, then the case is about whether the political branches of the federal government, which, unlike the court, are constitutionally responsible for national security and accountable to the voters whose lives are at stake, have the authority to defend against the predations of a hostile foreign power? The answer to that question is yes. As a result, there should be very little for the court to do besides endorse what the political branches have done here by proper statutory law rather than execute fiat and in an exhibition of bipartisanship unusual in our deeply divided times. The little that the court was left to do was, of course, important. It had to ensure that the government's national defense action did not unduly restrict the legitimate rights of Americans. At stake in this instance were the rights of 170 million TikTok users. At issue was whether the First Amendment rights were being violated, their right to express themselves, exchanges messages, and associate on the platform. Consequently, in the court's main unsigned opinion, there is extensive consideration of A, whether the divestment law implements the First Amendment at all. Implicates the First Amendment at all. B, if so, to what extent it does, and C, based on that, what level of scrutiny the court should apply. Ironically, the third consideration, which seems as if it should be the least important, is usually the decisive one. If the court applies strict scrutiny, which requires the government to show both that it has a compelling interest and that its law is the least restrictive means of accomplishing that interest, the government often loses. If intermediate scrutiny is applied, the government must merely demonstrate that its legitimate interest is rationally advanced by its law, and the government nearly always wins, even if reasonable minds can differ over whether there were better ways of advancing it. Here, the First Amendment was barely implicated. The TikTok divestment law, formerly the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, does not regulate speech. Instead, it requires TikTok's China-controlled owner, ByteDance, to divest because the app is used to gather huge amounts of personal data, not only the user's data, but also that of the other 170 million Americans who don't use TikTok, but inevitably interact with those who do. China now requires ByteDance, like all Chinese companies, to comply with any data demands made by communist regime. And there is no change in their speech that TikTok users could undertake that would alter the statute's requirement that ByteDance divest. Hence, the law does not regulate speech content at all. So why is the case before the justices? For two reasons, one of which is comparatively trivial, but got lots of attention, and the other profound, though it got considerably less attention. The comparatively trivial reason is that ancillary impact on speech. Even though the law at issue does not regulate content, it could have the downstream effect of restricting, indeed silencing speech because of ByteDance cannot or will not divest within the statutory period, 270 days, which works out to Sunday, January 19th. TikTok will effectively be shut down in the United States, as Charles C. W. Cook explains in the episode of The Editors this week. The shutdown would take time because of the technology involved. Under the court's precedents, even if law does not seek to regulate expression, it could violate the First Amendment if it imposes a disproportionate burden on speech. Nevertheless, unlike regulations of content, which get strict scrutiny treatment, claims of disproportionate burden get intermediate scrutiny, given the government's patent national security interests in preventing a hostile regime from spying on Americans. Even the potential shutdown of the platform would not violate the First Amendment. In fact, the government's interest in thwarting China's cyber aggression is sufficiently immense that, to my mind, the burden of speech is not even arguably disproportionate, such that I doubt even intermediate scrutiny should apply. And that's quite apart from the fact that if the platforms were to be sold to a non-China controlled operator, as the law requires, speech would be completely unaffected. In the end, that's why the government won the case easily. No matter what level of scrutiny was applied, the national security interest in defending against espionage would carry the day. But what about what I described as a profound First Amendment reason why the case was before the court? There are provisions in the law that endeavor to prevent China and other foreign adversaries from controlling the algorithm that determines what content is seen by users of a communications app such as TikTok. This includes banning such adversaries from being able to alter the content in what the court described as an undetectable manner. In short, subordinate to its concerns about China's data collection, the law seeks to prohibit a foreign power from shaping messaging to which Americans are exposed. That is a direct regulation of content rationalized on fears of foreign disinformation. It also implicates the ability of Americans to interact with and echo the messaging of foreign powers. That is a fraught First Amendment issue. Of course, I prefer that Americans were in you and you blah, 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 with the propaganda from the say China, Russia, Al Qaeda, or Hamas, but Americans have a constitutional right to sample and even peddle such propaganda as long as they don't cross the line to incitement. Furthermore, our American theory of free expression is that bad or false speech is best to overcome by worthy and true speech, not by empowering the government to play censor. Just consider the abuse of power that have occurred in the past decade. Government officials suppressed American political speech, the core First Amendment value under the partisan guise of fighting misinformation and foreign interference in our elections. To be clear on the latter, we're talking about mere and often absurd political messaging, particularly from Russia, not other forms of interference, sabotaging voting systems that already are legal. As rightly worried we are about China's use of TikTok to spread lies and stoke controversy such as messaging is a drop of the ocean in America's marketplace of ideas and expression. We can effectively refute it. More perilous in the notion that government agents, whether out of partisanship or because they sincerely believe it's for our own good, should be empowered to ban speech that the government has decided is false or serves a foreign power's agenda. If these last years prove anything, it is the government cannot be trusted with such power. In many ways, that is why we have a First Amendment, which is to guarantee not only free speech, but a free press. In the TikTok case, the Supreme Court sidestepped this issue of regulating the messaging of a foreign power. Essentially, the justices decided that the law in question was overwhelmingly directed at the legitimate, compelling objective of defeating Chinese data collection and espionage. That being so, the law would be upheld regardless of whether other justifications for it were dubious. That is the right answer for today. But the question of empowering government to censor on the ground that it unilaterally has decided information is false or serves the interests of a foreign power is not going away. And an alarming number of Americans seem not only open to granting government that authority, but also frighteningly is so about the dangers of doing so. Unfortunately, the court was attuned to this challenge and upholding the law and took pains not to green light a government power to suppress alleged misinformation. Um, yeah, so that was a article's longer than I thought. I mean, get some. Excuse me. So, they didn't really deal with the First Amendment issue, and it was about data collection. So apparently, not only do they collect data, but from the users, but they go like private messaging, and it gets other data from people who interact with you. So it even goes beyond people who are like TikTok users. So it's kind of bad, guys. Russell T. Wayne had a Warren had tweeted, I read the legal opinion. Here's what you should know. TikTok lost almost every single argument it made. This is a 9-0 ruling that sends a resounding message. TikTok's data collection practices are insane. The app gathers data that other apps normally consider off limits, including the content of users' private messages and the full contents of a user's device contacts. It's the last part that concerned the SCOTUS justices the most. If you have an email contact who has a TikTok account, China has your name, email, and possibly your phone number, photo, and more. China law requires its social media companies, including TikTok and its parent company ByteDance, to assist or cooperate with the Chinese government's intelligence work and to ensure that the Chinese government has the power to access and control private data. Congress and the FBI worry that this info and more could be used for espionage or to compile blackmail dossiers dossiers on elected officials or government employees. All 9 SCOTUS justices agree that the need to prevent espionage overrules any First Amendment concerns. And they ended it with, "You should have stopped watching those stupid dancing videos months ago." um, yeah, so yeah. So the CEO, who was actually invited to the inauguration, put out a video um, thanking President Trump about just supporting him and trying to save TikTok. But what I thought was interesting about it, I thought I saved it. Let me see if I can find it right now. I don't know. When TikTok keeps saying stuff like, "We want to save speech and the speech of our users," it's just kind of hard for me to believe, because I know they suppress speech like all these platforms do. The one who does it the least now is X. They still kind of do to some degree, but um, TikTok can be bad and it can be good, but they've played so many games with me.
Everyone, the show here. As you know, we have been fighting to protect the constitutional right to free speech for the more than 170 million Americans who use our platform every day to connect, create, discover, and achieve their dreams. On behalf of everyone at TikTok and all our users across the country, I want to thank President Trump for his commitment to work with us to find a solution that keeps TikTok available in the United States.
Okay, so that I'll let him keep talking, but I just want to point out that, like, an example, I had wrote a comment on a video about Jeffrey Marsh. If you don't know who Jeffrey Marsh is, you can Google him, and I'm sorry, very sorry for your eyes. But Jeffrey Marsh is like a they them non-binary kind of person. He's an older man. I don't know, maybe he's in his 50s or something like that, early 50s. Um, who will wear makeup and stuff. And he's like the hi kids. And he'll say, "Parents, give the phone to your kids, and we'll address them and tell them that there's no such thing as a boy or a girl." Just crazy stuff. And he'll tell people that if your family doesn't accept you, he can be he can be your family, and that you should cut people off. And he really lit TikTok on fire when he was telling people to go to their Patreon, and people are like, "Kids should not go to your Patreon so they can chat with you." And they're like, "He's not, his stuff isn't for kids." And people are like, he does a lot of videos addressing kids. So as RC said, he's a bad man. So he did a video around, I think, Christmas time. And I guess Christmas wasn't that far away, so it was probably Christmas. And he was comparing himself to Jesus, and did a video explaining the things that he had in common with Jesus. And someone was replying to his video, and I wrote just in the comments, "He is sick." And that was enough to get in trouble with TikTok. That was enough for me to get in trouble with TikTok. And I got a violation for that. Immediately. And I did not win my appeal. Immediately. So when I think about TikTok saying we want to protect the free speech of Americans, I mean, free speech is about the government suppressing your speech. So TikTok, has every right to enforce their guidelines that are set or whatever. But I don't feel like I wrote something that was so outrageous that violated whatever. And they flagged me for all kinds of stuff that was like crazy and instantly. And I got comments from people, calling me Sambo and Uncle Tom, just thousands of comments about my gap. And I'm not even joking. Like, so many comments, and some things I didn't usually report stuff, but I just kind of wanted to see what would stick with stuff that was being thrown at me versus comments that I make. Because if I can find like the softest way to say something is stupid, and it will, just like, oh, this comment was below your level of expected intelligence or something, and that would still get flagged. And I was really frustrated some time ago, like a couple months ago, because it was like I was getting flagged for like constantly for stuff while I was being bombarded since the election of all these negative comments. And I'm like, I can take the negative comments, but it's just I can't say things to defend myself, or I can't say things in response that aren't even that bad. And in some things, TikTok will be like, okay, this is hateful, and other times they're like, no, this isn't hateful. Like, no, that could stay. So after getting flagged a couple times, and then there was like another video of mine that got flagged. They actually kicked me out of the creators fund, and I can reapply if assuming that maybe TikTok sticks around. I can reapply for it next month. But the video that they said that was like the final straw, I appealed that, and then they're like, oh, your appeal is successful. So then I appealed the ban on the creator fund, and then immediately they're like, nah, it's rejected. So I understand they want to keep their app intact, but if they wanted to talk of like really tackle this First Amendment issue, they could have just brought in a bunch of people who got banned multiple times, like constantly. There's one guy, older millennial. Now I think wants TikTok to stay, but he got banned on TikTok multiple times, time and time again. So many times. I know people who got banned a lot just from their anti-abortion debates that they would do. Just people who had huge accounts with 1 million followers would get banned. This is Savvy almost lost her account because people got mad because she made some kind of video about Lion King that offended people. Now, we were all able to rally together to save her account and get it restored. And my account got banned once, and I was able to appeal it and get it restored. But it's not like so many people can express themselves, but you do have to like tiptoe a lot of the time. I've had stuff taken down for sure. They took down a parody video I did of the people from the Daily Wire that got caught. Like, people were like mass reporting my stuff, and it was just a little parody of me mocking Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and Andrew Klavan and Michael Knowles, which some of those guys ended up seeing it and retweeting it. And like Andrew Klavan saw it. I want to think that I know Matt Walsh's wife, I think, saw it. I don't know if he did. I don't know, maybe Knowles did. I know Ben didn't see it, or at least Ben never expressed that he saw it. But that got taken down. So so I'm totally sympathetic to so many people who are upset because they're losing their livelihood and have integrated their lives so much with TikTok, and TikTok has changed so many lives. TikTok has paid some of my bills for sure, but they're not like libertarians on free speech. They're not. They're not for sure. So I just wanted to put that out there. And as far as who could do something to save all these people who's going to lose their livelihood right now and are not going to know what to do as far as income with their small businesses, with their TikTok shops, or how TikTok has helped, their brick and mortar stores, people making content, selling, getting commission from TikTok shop stuff. All those folks, something could save them. And the answer is TikTok. If they divest, they could have saved the store. They could have saved all these people. And it's just incredible to me that all these people are mad at the government, and they don't believe the national security threats. They don't. They think that they're lying. They're like, Some people have told, I did a video about it. I'm like, TikTok could click their heels 3 times and just save the whole thing the whole time. It's just, you could be angry at the government, but I don't understand why people are angry at TikTok. And they're like, no, some people are buying Meta stock. They show me who they are because they bought Meta stock. And I just kind of thought to myself, I'm like, oh gosh, it would have been smart to buy that stuff. If you're just kind of paying attention, I think you should have probably bought some Meta stock or YouTube or whatever. But that doesn't mean that the concerns aren't there and they're not real. And even in the court, they tried to argue that, hey, but there's other apps that, should be concerned. And the courts are just, the justices are like, you don't have to solve every problem every day. That doesn't mean that this particular thing isn't an issue, isn't a problem. And the reason why it passed so fast, and I covered this at the time, and I said it a few times, is that when they were discussing this bill, TikTok set everybody in action, go call your congressperson. And a lot of young people are on TikTok, very young people. Some of the wildest, dumbest stuff, you could tell it's a kid. You could tell they're under 18 for sure. And sometimes, I'm on TikTok live listening to different debates, and kids will come on there. They'll age check or whatever, and they'll lie and be like, I'm 25, and they get like, well, what year were you born? And then they don't know, or they won't say because they can't do math. And some of them they will, and then sometimes people will entertain them a little bit and ask them more questions. And then they'll get tripped up and they'll just start yelling, kill all babies, kill all babies, kill all babies. And then they get kicked out. It's ridiculous. But, when they were trying to mobilize people to hey, call your congressperson. And then there's all these kids who start calling. And according to Tom Cotton, because this is what he's saying before Congress right now, because they're debating an extension. He's like, no way. Not in this Republican-controlled Congress. We passed a bipartisan bill, and they had all these kids calling our phones, and they were threatening to kill themselves. They were threatening to harm legislators, and now we're not doing it. And that flipped them out. That flipped them out. That China could mobilize these kids to go into a frenzy like that. So if you were trying to convince them that it's safe in the hands of the Chinese, you did a bad thing. You probably were the authors of your own destruction there, for sure. Let's see if he says anything else interesting.
This is a strong stand for the First Amendment and against arbitrary censorship. As we've said, TikTok is a place where arbitrary. People can create communities, discover new interests, and express themselves, including over 7 million American businesses who earn a living and gain new customers using our platform. We are grateful and pleased to have the support of a president who truly understands our platform, one who has used TikTok to express his own thoughts and perspectives, connecting with the world and generating more than 60 billion views of his content in the process. To all American users, thank you for making our TikTok community such a rich and vibrant space, for surprising and delighting us every day. Rest assured, we will do everything in our power to ensure our platform thrives as your online home for limitless creativity and discovery, as well as a source of inspiration and joy for years to come.
He says that, but they won't sell it and didn't entertain selling it, and they got offers. He says they'll do everything, but they won't do everything because that's the thing that China doesn't want them to do. And they're good at this. Did you hear how much he flattered Trump? People know if you flatter Trump, you can get away with a lot of stuff, man. Shoot, it's almost 5:00. You flatter Trump, man. Trump likes to be flattered. So it's like, oh, he was so successful on TikTok, and we're so glad to have the help of a president who's going to do X, Y, Z, blah blah blah. Maybe one of the reasons why TikTok allowed Trump to really soar on the platform, besides people sharing his stuff, and obviously he's a person with a big following, is they're hedging their bets on who who might save them and keep them around. You know? So they're good. They understand. They understand. They understand for sure what's up. So Biden, before I let you guys go, just decided to kind of declare and affirm something into our Constitution. Okay, let me just play this snippet here of Biden.
Just over 100 years ago, a pioneering group of women proposed the Equal Rights Amendment to enshrine the principles of gender equality in our Constitution. Throughout my career, I've been clear. No one should be discriminated against based on their sex. And in order for the amendment to be ratified, it requires 3/4 of the states to ratify it. That benchmark was passed when Virginia ratified the ERA a few years ago. Today, I affirm the Equal Rights Amendment to have cleared all the necessary hurdles to be added to the U.S. Constitution now. The Equal Rights Amendment is the law of the land now. It's the 28th Amendment to the Constitution now.
All right, Michael Scott. I declare.
Dozens of constitutional scholars to make sure there was all within the power to do this.
Sure you did. Let's look at this community note here. The archivist of the United States, who is charged with officially publishing ratified amendments, has confirmed that the ERA was not ratified and has based that analysis on binding legal precedent. Justice Ginsburg also previously declared the ratification had failed. So, you can't just do stuff, bro. He's trying though. He's trying. I don't. But Biden's DOJ has told him it's not a thing. It's just people are saying this is just a last minute Biden trying to enshrine, a legacy going forward, but just take the L. Just take the L, bro. We're only a few days out. Just, it's the 17th. It's the 17th, guys. We're almost there. Almost there. Yeah, again, I don't so many people are like, Trump saved TikTok, and I don't understand why all these people crying about TikTok going away. Half of them were people who were upset and crying because Kamala Harris lost the election. And I'm like, why didn't you guys give the Biden administration a hard time when they passed this bill? It's been in the news a long time. It's not like you didn't know. So I don't understand why they got a pass for that, and why they wanted her to win so bad when they're going to take away their TikTok and their livelihood and et cetera, et cetera. They're the ones who started that. And it was written and signed to make sure that all of this will be done by the time Trump came in. People are like, Trump can do something. Everything in the law is supposed to be done by the time he takes office. And they did that on purpose. Yes, Biden could have had a extension if there was like an offer on the table. Like if there was like, significant kind of strides into a sale going forward, and they needed more time, but TikTok didn't want to do that, and they don't want to do that, apparently. Okay. Now Biden has said he won't enforce it. He said it, he won't enforce it, but Sunday is when it's supposed to go dark, and he's going to be not the president on Monday. So how much enforcement was his DOJ supposed to do in the span of a day? So announcing like, oh, Biden says he's not going to enforce it. Biden doesn't have much time anyway. It's I don't even understand people being happy about that. Now it is on Trump of whether he's going to enforce the law, but I don't think it's good that if he does know about whatever things are a national security threat, if he knows or if people show him and he's still like, nah, I'm good. I still like TikTok, and he was tweeting out like, I just talked to President Xi and about fentanyl and TikTok, and they're commies, man. They're good propagandists. They start flattering your bronzer and your hair, and they get in your head, man. At the end of the day, if there's compelling data, he has to just do what he feels is right for the good of the country. So I don't think there's much he can do, and it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to get Congress to pass a new bill, and he can't do it by executive order. That would be not good. He does not. We don't need him doing foolish stuff like Biden do foolish stuff. A law was passed. That's why it was. I didn't know what the court was supposed to do. A law was passed. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream and run my site, all that good stuff you guys can support. I do very much appreciate it. I will start posting some of my Lila Rose stuff probably tomorrow, because I do have a few parts that are edited, and I'll keep editing it probably when I come home tonight from church. I don't know, I might go live on TikTok a little bit, because I have not done a long time, and it's gonna be one of the last times I can do that. So and my account is so suppressed now. A lot of people are doing goodbye videos. Make sure you follow me here. My stuff isn't getting any traction, so I don't even know if I could have a video that really goes out to my followers, because they've been just suppressing my account for so long. But I don't know. We'll see if anything changes. God bless you guys, and I'll see you next week. At least I'll post periodically and stuff. Maybe might do some impromptu lives, but I will see you when I get back on Wednesday, and if there's any other kind of change of plans, I'll let you know. God bless.